Today I'm going to be making my sourdough, and I think it can be a little confusing on how to actually take your sourdough and turn it into a bread. I think that was a huge barrier when I actually started with sourdough. I had a starter and I just kept it in my fridge, but I didn't know how to actually use it. So I'm going to show you a really simple, easy sourdough recipe, and I'm going to take you through my actual day making it, or 2 days, because it does take a bit of time. Time is what is needed for sourdough. So the first thing that we're going to do, I had my sourdough in the fridge. You can smell it. It's going to be pretty yeasty, and it should have some bubbles in it, so it should be an active starter. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to feed it right now so that it's going to be live when we start cooking. So I'll feed it right now, and then we're going to wait around 4 to 12 hours for us to actually start making our sourdough. Another thing that I think is really important to note, and a little bit of a hack, whatever you end up stirring your sourdough with, I like to do it with a knife just because it's easy to get. Make sure that you do wipe clean with a paper towel. The starter can actually act very cement-esque if it goes down the drain, especially if you have a septic. You just don't want to mess it up, so I always use a paper towel. We're going to come back in around 4 to 12 hours, make sure it's looking good, and we'll check in on the next step. It is now about 12 hours since I have fed my starter. You can see that it is growing nice and bubbly, and I can smell the fermentation. So what we're gonna do now is actually add all of our ingredients together for our sourdough bread. Now, I just am using a regular bowl here. And the first ingredient that we're going to add is 3.5 cups of flour. So I use an all-purpose unbleached flour. 1, 3.5 cups. Okay, so my trick next, because we're going to be adding our bubbly starter, we're just going to add 1/2 cup, is I'm going to actually take my 1/2 cup and I'm going to make an indentation into the flour, and then I'll just pour my starter into there so I don't get it on my cup and I can't get it out. Really great hack. Perfect. Now I'm going to add 1 1/3 cup of water. 1 1/3. Lastly, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of salt. I just eyeball it. So I have all my ingredients in here. I'm just going to take a spoon and combine everything. I'm also going to take my ring off because I'll most likely have to be getting my hands in here. So what's really great about sourdough than any other bread, and even if you're at the supermarket looking at labels, you're going to see that most store-bought breads require a lot of ingredients. But with your own sourdough, the only ingredients that you have are flour, water, and salt. So as long as you have a good quality flour that you're using, you have a nice filtered water, which we have a well with filtered water out of our tap, and you're using a nice salt, I use Redmond's salt, then you're gonna have an overall very healthy bread that you can be working with. And this really brings back the old style of eating. It's a throwback to when people did eat bread all the time. I am gonna need to get my hands a little dirty in here. And this is when bread was actually pretty healthy. When you think about it, if you go to Italy, you can have bread and pizza all day because they're using good quality ingredients. Whereas when you're in America and you're going out and you're eating lots of carbs, you can sometimes feel sick or unwell. So it's really nice that you can actually be making your own loaf with really good, healthy ingredients, and the less ingredients where you actually know that they're sourced from good locations. I will also leave all of the directions down below. So if you watch this and you think, hey, this actually isn't that hard, then you can go ahead and follow those steps below. Once we've combined in all ingredients, we've mixed it really well, I'm gonna put some plastic on the top, sit in a nice warm location, and every 30 minutes, we're going to do a stretch and fold for 3 times. So we'll uncover the plastic and we'll do a stretch and fold, which looks just like this. You'll go on each corner of all 4 corners and stretch out all of your loaf. So we'll do this 3 times every 30 minutes. Okay, it's been another 30 minutes. This is our last stretch and fold. So make it a good one. Really stretching the sides up and folding them over. All 4 sides. And then we're going to take this, cover with your plastic wrap one more time, and we're going to put this in a warm spot. So I like to put it in the microwave, especially if you aren't going to be using it, or in the sun. If you have the oven going anywhere by there, it is winter, so it's not really that warm in our house, but I'll go ahead and put this in the microwave and we're going to let it sit there for 6 to 12 hours or until it doubles in size. So just take a real quick look at what she looks like, and when she doubles in size, then we'll go on to the next step. Usually it takes a little bit longer depending on where you live or how cold it is. So I'll probably err on more of the 12 hours. It has now been a little over 12 hours. So we're gonna move on to our last few steps. You can see my sourdough has now doubled in size nearly. It's a little bit sticky. What I'm gonna do is flour my hands and just form into the shape that I want. I'm also gonna put this into a nicely floured bowl. I'm gonna let sit for around 20 minutes. Oh wow, it's very strong smelling. I'm gonna let sit for around 20 minutes, and then you can either, that's 20 minutes uncovered, and then you can either decide to sit out at room temperature for another like 4 to 5 hours, or what we can do is have it sit in the fridge for about 12 hours. Okay, so really whatever you want depending on when you want your loaf. This is definitely a very long process. So whenever you receive a sourdough from someone or you are giving someone a sourdough, it's actually a very nice gift. So I'm gonna go ahead and just form my sourdough into the shape that I want. Doesn't need to be anything crazy. I'm just gonna nicely make it into a loaf. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my floured dish for 20 minutes at room temperature. And then once those 20 minutes have gone up, I'm gonna place in the fridge for about 12 hours. And then we're on our final cooking step. We're so close. The oven has been preset to 500 degrees. It's been at 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and I just have the pot in here, sitting in here, the Dutch oven. I just took the lid off, and I have here my sourdough, which I took out of the refrigerator. I'm gonna go ahead and shape this and then stick it into the Dutch oven for 20 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and take some parchment paper here, lay this out. Place my lid on, close this in, and we're gonna cook for 20 minutes with the lid on at 500 Then we're gonna lower it to 475 and cook for 15-20 minutes without the lid so that it can brown. The timer's up, so I'm gonna go ahead, take the lid off. Oh, it's looking really good. And we're gonna put this on for another, I like 15 minutes and then check, but you can go up to 20 minutes. It has now been 15 minutes. Whew. You can see a nice golden color. I'm gonna lift it out. Really hot. So I'm gonna let this cool and then we'll cut into it.